Very good morning, everyone present in the class, and welcome back. So, we are now, I hope I'm audible to everyone. Good morning to all. Thank you for the acknowledgement. So, now we are going to start with one of the important topic, which is spring security. Good morning, Osama. Whenever you hear the term security, especially in the world of software, very often most of the time it will lead to thinking of cyber security attack, thinking about the firewalls and so. Isn't that the case, everyone? Whenever you hear the term security of our applications, it's all leading to firewalls. Some hackers will hack. Now whatever spring security we're talking, it is not about that. It's about more than that. It is about securing our APIs, or you can say the resources, REST APIs. All the resources, every REST API method is a resource. So giving security to that. Guys, all of you have access to Telescope website. But can you access every course which is available in the Telescope website, guys? Can you access all the courses which are there? Spring security is all about authentication and authorization. Who can access which resource for how much time? Who has what capability or what authority over an application? Can you all go and add a new courses into Telescope websites? Do you have that authority, every one of you? Can you update the course, delete the course, add the extra course, change the fees? Do you have that authority? Can you access everything? No, right? So you can get into the Telescope. Few of the resources are there which all of you can access. See how many courses are there. A lot of information everyone can access. It's not secure. Anyone can access. After which you can access to the courses which you have enrolled. Only that courses you can access. You cannot access everything which is there in the website. And you don't have every right also. You cannot do a lot of things in the website. You have a specific authority over the entire application, that what you can do. You can just go to your enrollments and you can watch the course which you have registered, that to the specified amount of time. Yes, everyone. So the spring security is all about the same. Yeah. Authentication and the authorization. Yes, exactly. And I would like to also share you, whenever we develop the application, there are many security concerns which you may have to be taken care as a team. For excuse me, guys. Excuse me. For which we have many organizations. One of the most popular one is OAuth. I would like to go and search. Oh, guys, please see here. There is an organization called as O as Open Worldwide Application Security Project. which gives you the current trending security risk for the application. The last 10 they had given was in 2017 and later in 2021, and maybe again they may give within the next top 10 new will come in 2025. We are planning to announce the release of OAS top 20 or 25 in 2025, in the first half of 2025. After collecting the data till December 2024, they are still collecting the data. Okay, I have shared the fifth time, guys. Please be on time because others will get distracted. So the top 10 web application security risk described by this organization, which is Open Web Application Security Project. OAS means Open Web Application Security Project. Every 10 years, based on that current trend, they will define the minimum top 10 risk which every developer or maybe the application owners have to be taken care, which are trending. It is need not to be only 10, it could be more than that, but these are the top 10 trending risk. From 2017 till 2021 it was different risk, but right now from 2021 till today the risks are the top 10 which you can see here on your screen. And maybe 2025 next year they will give you the again top 10 for next 5-6 years, which are the possible risks. The first one, if you want to read more, you can just click this. If you click here, it will redirect to you, and you can see here, access control enforces policy such that user cannot act outside their intended permission. Imagine you are getting into Telesco application and you could able to access all the courses which are there in Telesco. You can modify the fees. Is it a good application? No, right? So this is one of the top risk currently after 2021, guys, after the COVID era. They, as a developer, you have to take care of this first. Broken access control. Okay. Over 94% of the applications were tested for some form of broken access control. Then you have cryptographic failures, and this is also very common whenever a server to client, client to server communications happens, right? Then there is a high possibility of cryptographic failures. Then injections, many types of injections, SQL injections. What if while shooting into the database SQL query you inject, insert or maybe select where clause is there. In the where clause they can use or also, or command, and they can just see if this is the username or any username. Then in that case that is also possibilities there, though JDBC internally uses prepared statement, and that situation will not come. But this is also one of the trending a risk. Insecure design, this comes at the time of designing itself. When you're designing the application, that moment itself you may have to plan. Sometimes the way you have designed your entire software might lead to a risk of security misconfiguration. Then again, outdated components. All these are leading to whenever you use something which is deprecated. Deprecated means the functionality of that particular thing will not go out. Anything which you use deprecated, the functionality will remain same. However it was working before, it will work the same way for the next forever. But the problem is that is deprecated shows that the team has told, the owners have announced that we are not going to support that anymore. That means we are not taking off that component. The functionality will work, but again there might be a security breach, there might be other issues. So make sure you rectify. So deprecated means don't use this. There is a possibility of security risk in deprecated components, annotations, methods, predefined classes which are deprecated. You should not be using it. Same goes for the misconfiguration. Refers to most of the time there will be some default configuration for everything which you use. Whenever you use anything which is from the third party, you may have to do the configurations. And sometimes there is one common configurations irrespective of the applications. You should not go with the default common configurations. You may have to modify and you have to customize that. That could also leading to proper issues. Then like this, there are top 10 when it comes to logging and monitoring. That time also there is a possibility of risk. So top 10 risk which has been defined by ops, you can go through one by one. Also, if you want, you can understand that detailed. So as a developer, or as a you know the one who is going to develop the resources for the clients, the clients could be anything, direct end user, or it could be the other business. You have to be taken care of this possible security risk, and it could be more than that. Most often we follow this in the industry, which are a top 10 security risk. Now coming to the Spring security, it's not just about the firewalls or something. It's about who can access, who has how much authority, how to authenticate, and give the resources, how much who can access it. Okay, all the resources, that means APIs which we are developing, how much who can access, and what they can do with that resources. It's all about that. It's simple, refers to securing our REST APIs. Spring security is securing our REST APIs, our resources which we are going to give to our client. So first we are going to discuss the default configurations which are there in the Spring security model. Then we will disturb the default configurations. We will get into the filters, CSRF. Here we'll see about the session ID, CSRF token, and then same site restriction. Then we will get into the how to store the password securely. We will get into the token based authentication authorization, how to generate JWT token. After generating JWT token, how can we verify that, and OR2. All these things we are going to discuss in tomorrow's class, and also if possible day after tomorrow's class also same discussions is going to happen on this. Fine. So can we start the journey of developing the application, guys? I would like to go back, refresh this. Maven project Java. I'll say com.teresco. I will say here security project 01. And I would like to go back here and add web to develop the resources, and database and all will remain same, guys. That will not get affected. It's about securing our APIs. So once we take the data, we will transfer it to service layer. From the service layer, we will store in the database. The data JPA part storing into database, all of that will remain same. There is no difference. Very first application, I know want to uh, get into that. All of you okay with it? Yes, no, maybe. Simple resources I would like to create. And of course, then we have security, which I would like to add it. Highly customizable authentication and access control framework for Spring applications. Customizable authentication and access control. Okay. Who can get into our application and what they have, what they can access. I would like to go back to my downloads, take the project from there, get into data, add this here, right click, Right click, delete. Import the project. All right. I would like to go back here, import the existing Maven project. Next, browse, go back here. Done. The project is loaded, dear friends. Required dependencies have been added. For now, initially, whatever security I've added, I would like to comment that out. I'm commenting it. If you are commenting it, that shows this is not a part of your application right now. Assume Spring security is not added. I would like to go back here. I'll say Maven, update the project. The project is updated, no Spring security dependency. I'll go back here and have a model dot model, and I'll have my REST resources. Go back here, right click. I'll say refresh, and I'll go back here, create new class. Any class in that matter, whatever model, whatever data you'd like to work with. Maybe I'll go with alien. Very simple. I would like to just go back here and say private integer type of ID, private string type of name, same old story, private string type of city. Okay. Go back here, source, getters and setters. It is generated. Go back. Then we have source to string method. Go back. Then we have source and 10 parameterized constructor. All right. After which I'll go and create some basic APIs, guys. I'll go back here. I'll say right click, new class. I'll say here maybe alien controller. Just a REST resource I'm creating. So I'd like to go back here and say REST controller. It's done. And I don't have a database right now. Even if you connect, it's not, different here in case of this. I'll develop that also. But for now, manually, I'll create some resource here. Collection of alien type of data equals to collection. I'll say new array list, new array list. And within this, I'll be creating multiple objects. I'll say import. After importing in this collection, I will create multiple objects. I will just say here list dot of, and I'll create multiple string objects or multiple alien objects. I'll say new alien. This is normal Java part, guys. Whatever code I'm writing. ID. I'll say new alien ID. Then I will say Rohan. Some resources are there. Assume whether it is coming from database or I'm hard coding, that is a different case. I hope all of you, we have done enough of development that these things are default to everyone present in the class. Yes, no, maybe. I would like to take this here. how much ever I write, it should not create a major problem. Okay. Some resources are there, guys. Assume that this is coming from the database. I would like to create a normal, very basic, maybe directly I would like to return. You know very well, we have to wrap it in the response entity. Directly also, if you write, give the response body, output will not be affected. So all of you know the history, geography of how to develop this. I'll say maybe get alien, some resources just to demonstrate the basic security which is there with us. I will say return the list of aliens which are there, list of aliens which are there, and I will bind this to get mapping. I'll say bind this to get mapping. I would like to go back here and add some endpoints. Maybe I'll say get aliens. I would like to go back again. I'll say public, maybe I'll say void add alien. Okay. I would like to just go back here and say request body alien type alien. These things by default everyone knows whatever I'm writing here, you need not to put any efforts there, right? So I would like to just say here list dot add. I would like to add the alien which I'm accepting here. Okay, all right, I'll say here dot add alien. I will bind this to post mapping. I'll go back here, bind this to post mapping. I will say here add. Okay. There are two resources, guys, basically here. Maybe I would like to system dot out dot println. I'll say, or instead of alien, I would like to just print the list. Guys, basically there are two resources here. One is a get resource, one is a post resource. Two REST APIs are there here. Any issues to anyone here? Right now, I have commented the security module, guys. There is no Spring security. I have not added the Spring security. Normally, two resources are there. Very simple resources are there, which everyone knows by default by this time. I would like to go and deploy this application. I'll be deploying in the embedded Tomcat server. I would like to deploy this application. Application is getting deployed. As all of you can see here, guys, no context part 8080. I would like to go back to my Postman tool. Get aliens, add aliens. I'll go back here. Get aliens 8080 is a port number. Slash, I'll say get aliens. I would like to just go and hit this endpoint. I'm getting all the aliens. If you want, you can add the aliens also. I would like to go back here. I would like to say post, and maybe in place of this, I'll say add. I would like to go back here into my previous. All right, where is that resource? Yeah. Any one resource I would like to add. I'll take this JSON data. I'll go to my post method. I'll say body. It's a raw. It's a JSON type of data which I'm giving to my API. And just to have a differentiating factor, I'll give the ID as 4. If I send this, of course, you're not getting anything here. But if I have to go back to the application, you will see I'm able to print this also. All of that I'm printing, that means I'm able to receive. Normally, our APIs are behaving as per how we wanted. No issues, right? Every one of you. Very basic APIs, normally how we have done so far. Any difference? No difference. I would like to also show you through the browser. Let me deploy the application. Go back to my Postman tool. Go back to the get request. I would like to take this from here. So guys, right now in my application, there are two resources. Now anyone and everyone can be able to access these two resources, right? I mean, these two resources without any problem. I'll go back here and I'll try to access the resources. I'll hit this. Oops, not course info. I'll say get aliens. Get aliens. Am I able to access the resources, guys, without any problem? Anyone and everyone able to access every resource which has been developed in the application. Right now, two resources have been developed, two APIs have been developed. Everyone around the globe can just access our resources without any problem. Done. Now see what happens here. I'll go back and I'll just open my ID. I'll go back to my pom.xml. I would like to just uncomment what we have done it here. What we have commented, I would like to just save this. Redeploy, of course, I may have to stop this. Go back here and update my project, update the Maven project. I have updated, guys. I have added just dependency. In front of you, the application is there. Did I created any HTML, JSP page, guys? Any theme leaf, HTML, JSP, React, or anything I have created? Did I create it? No, right? Did I write any extra code in my controller methods? Any extra thing here? Inside my Pojo, inside the model class? No. After which I would like to go back here, deploy my application. If I deploy this application, that time only I want you to observe. This generated passport is for development use only. You can configure. All of that is fine. In the production, you should not be using it. Using security generated, internally generated password. Automatically, your application is generating the password. Did you write any code to generate any password, guys? Anywhere did you write anything to generate any password? After generating the password, Spring Security is giving you a message. This is generated password for development practice only, not for the real production. Of course, you cannot have a same, password, a static password for everyone. What if I give you common password to the entire Telescope application, to the entire world? If you want to get into Telescope, use this common password. That is not realistic, right? So same message you are getting from the Spring team also. But apart from this, I would like to go back to my resources. I would like to say get aliens. I would like to hit this. I'm getting this. Did I created any form, guys? Please sign in form. Did I created any? Yes, no, maybe. Anyone and everyone present in the class? All of you? I have not created. But it is to access the resource. It is asking me to enter the username and password. All of you are able to see here. I would like to go here to my application. What is a password for this? Automatically Spring Security generating. It is for only practice only. How to have our own passwords and all I will discuss. Lot to be discussed in today's, tomorrow, day after tomorrow's class. You will get the clarity. But for now, Spring is automatically generating one password. And also, I want you to observe here one more part. All right. Okay. I would like to go back to my browser. I will say here user. I would like to, by the default username is user, guys, and the password which is generated, I have entered here. If I say sign in, I'm able to get it. After I signed in, only then I'm getting the resources. Now to access any of the resource, can anyone and everyone can access the resources, guys? No. In order to access this, you should be entering the username and password. And that username and password are the default, which is because this is the default behavior of Spring Security module. By default, all your resources will be secured. But in general, guys, if you visit Facebook or if you visit Telescope, all of you are you able to see the courses which are listed in the Telescope even if you don't log in? Yes, no. And if you log in, some resources you can access. With that, can I come to a conclusion that very often in most of the application, few resources will be there which can be accessed by anyone and everyone. And only for few resources, security will be implemented. Where if you provide, if you authenticate yourself, only then you can go and access that particular resource. Yes. Now, the default behavior at which this is working, the default behavior at which this is working is it is securing all the resources which are available at the backend. Every resource it is available. Can you access any resources? No. Are you all there? If you no want this automatic generated password to be used, if you no want the user to be the default username, if you don't want this to happen, this is given by Spring Security, guys. Then you can also do something. What you can do, if you ask me, go back to application.properties file. And here there are some key value pairs which you can add in the form of YAML or in the form of application.properties. I will say here Spring dot security dot user dot name equals to. I'll give the username as alien. I am defining the username. After which I'll say Spring dot security dot user dot password equals to Telescope @123 or whatever you would like to give, you can give it. I would like to save this. After saving, guys, again I'll redeploy my application. Now see, are you getting any password generated, guys? Automatic password generated. Are you getting any message from your in your console? Spring understood that developer has given something. Now I'll go back to my browser. I will say here, try to access. By default, you're getting this. Now the username is alien. Username is alien here. And the password, what is that I have given, guys? Telescope @123 is the password. Now I'm, oops, white label. This is wrong. I would like to go back here, guys. Get aliens. I'm able to get right now because the login is successful. And because of one reason, there is something called as session ID. In the servlet classes also I have told, but I would like to give you the, what do you say, little bit more clarity on this. Whenever you visit to any application, that means if you are making visit to a server based on your request, based on the first request, by default behind the scene on your server, one session ID gets created. Session ID will be generated automatically. And same user from the same client, from the same browser, they can access any of the resources as long as the session ID is valid. Sometimes the default session ID time is longer, but as a developer, you have authority that how much you have to make this session ID. In the Spring, in the servlet classes videos, I had discussed about the session ID. How many of you could able to remember, guys? That I had given some time that only that time people can access the resources. Suppose you have not watched the video due to some reason, maybe you are a busy person, you could not get that time, you have not watched, I agree, forget about that if you have not watched. Every time you make a request to any of the application, for that request, one session ID will be generated. And as long as the session ID is valid, you can access any number of resources. Right now, I was making a call and I was able to get that resource without username and password because the previous session ID was valid. And since I'm making call from the same browser, it came to a conclusion that the same user is trying to access the resources, and we have already authenticated this particular user. It is able to give you the resources because of the session ID. For every user, there will be a unique session ID which gets created behind the scene. And as long as the session ID is valid for that particular unique user, that particular unique user can access any number of resources without any problem. Are you getting everyone? Yes, no, maybe. Any issues to anyone here? Have you all come across, guys, once you logged into your banking application, 3 to 4 minutes of time you can access, you can do the transaction. After 4 minutes, automatically it will ask you to re-log in. Have you seen that? Transaction, then session out, session timeout, you'll get one pop-up. You have to re-log in. There, they will manually expire the session ID. And now to access the resources, again, you have to show, you have to prove that you are the right user. That's increase the security. So every time you visit behind the scene, one session ID gets created, and I will practically show you also on that. In our Spring MVC classes, have you seen, guys? Behind the scene, it is a servlet which is working. Our controller, our actual resource is servlet. Servlet is the actual resource. And this is our end user, our client. And before they can access anything in between, you can add something called as, in the servlet we have a concept of filters. You can add multiple filters also. That means before you making or taking a request, the request is traveling through some filtration. You are verifying if the email address is correct as per the syntax or not, the password you have used proper elements or not. Then the request, after going through multiple filters, will come to the servlet, and servlet will give a response back to the client. And if you want, you can have single filter, you can have multiple filters. If you have multiple filters, we talk that the concept of filter chaining, wherein multiple filters are there. Your request is getting filtered before getting into the actual servlet. Making sure here Spring MVC is there, but behind the scene it is also dispatches servlet. Behind the scenes, some default filters have been implemented. Default Spring security filters have been implemented. And because of this default Spring security filters, there are some predefined classes which has been coded by the Spring security. You are able to get the default form wherein you have to enter the username and password. And internally, some predefined code has been written which is verifying whether the username and password is correct or not. All right. I'll go back to my application, guys. I would like to stop the application. I'll go back here, right click. I would like to run my application. Go back to the browser. I would like to just go back to this resource. Okay. I would like to just paste this resource here and try to access. Guys, I'm getting this because the session ID is now expired. I had stopped the server. Now alien, I cannot enter user, guys, because the default I have disturbed. I will say alien is the username and the password is telescope@123 is the password. If I hit this, I'm able to get this session ID. I'm able to get this. And you can do the same also from the Postman tool. If you want to do the same with the Postman tool, after which there is something called as authorization, guys. In the authorization section, you have to click on basic auth. After you click basic auth, by default, you'll get an option of username and password, which you have to enter manually. I will enter it as alien. I will enter the password as telesco@123. If you enter, only then the resources can be accessed. I would like to hit this enter key. See the resources I'm able to access now. Suppose if I enter the wrong password, if I try to access the resources, it is not. See, 401 unauthorized, forbidden. Authentication is failed here. Are you getting everyone? Yes. So what I'm trying to say is Spring Security by default implements some of the predefined security filters behind the scene. And the default setting is that whenever you try to access any of the resources, all the resources, so the default behavior of Spring Security is it will secure all the resources of your application. All the APIs will be secured. Point number one. Clear to everyone? Yes, no, maybe. Point number two. It will also generate a default password. However, by writing some of the configurations in the application or properties, we can disturb that. We can specify our own username and password. And the moment we specify our own username and password, Spring Security will not generate any default password. Is that also clear to everyone? Yes, no, maybe. All of you. Now the problem here is, guys, in the real time, we will not have a single user, right? We will have a multiple users. Based on the registration, any users can access. Something similar also I will implement in tomorrow's and day after tomorrow's class. Okay. I know this question will come up and I am upfront telling that I will show you how to store, how to register a new user, and based on the registration, how to provide the login, how to authenticate and authorize the user. That part I will discuss in upcoming today, tomorrow's and day after tomorrow's class. Right now, I'm just getting into the default system. About the session ID also, I'll do one thing here. I'll go back here itself, maybe. I will write one more API. API method, I'll say public string type of message. I'll say get course info. And I will say a return. Let's go launch DevOps with AWS course from scratch. Okay. No prerequisites. And guys, I'll go back here, bind this to get request. After binding it to the get request, I'll say here get info is the resource, guys. And I will go here and say HTTP servlet request. And as already everyone knows, behind us in these servlets only which are getting used, I can get hold of this servlet also like this. In our MVC part, I had shown all of you, if you could able to remember. If you're not able to remember, I can open and show you the Spring MVC part wherein we had used that here. Yes, no. Have we created the methods like this, guys? How to write multiple methods in the MVC part? Somewhere I had shown you guys, where I could able to get the access of HTTP servlet also. Behind the scene, it is servlets which are getting used. Why I'm accessing this is because to get hold of session ID. I want to show you that session ID will remain same for all the resources. That message I want to show you, that's it. After which I'll say here and session ID, or maybe I'll say here this is the information plus I'll say here request dot get. You can access something called as session ID, guys. Request dot get array baba dot get session server port server name. Okay, get session. Are you able to see this get session? I'll say dot in the session. I want to get the ID. I will generate one more resource, guys, just to show you. I'll say here it is 4 months weekend course. Okay. I'll say here more info. I will say here more info is the endpoint. After this, I would like to go back here. I would like to just deploy my application. Let me deploy this application, guys. Application is deployed. I'll go back to my Postman tool. Guys, without basic auth authorization, basic auth, user and password, can I access my resources? See here, I cannot access it. I'll say here 1, 2, 3. I can access it. I can access it. Getting it, everyone? Now I'll go back here and say, get info. Are you all able to see this, guys? Telesco has launched DevOps course, and are you able to see session ID? I want you to observe the last 191C. I'll say get more info. Guys, 191C only. That means same session ID is getting used here. For the first time when you visit, session ID will be generated throughout the application. As long as the session ID is valid, you can access any of the resources, and other resources are also getting access with the same session ID. Yes. So after visiting the application for the first time, one session ID is getting generated, and based on that session ID, if you are making call to any other resources of your application, it is able to give you authority over it by considering the session ID which is getting generated behind the scene. Are you all there, guys? Any confusions or ambiguities here? Right now, whatever I'm discussing, this is the default behavior at which Spring Security is working. And as we have gone through here, if I have to go through this, please read out, guys, what it says. Highly customizable authentication and access control framework. Customizable means there is a lot of scope to customize. Right now, behind the scenes, Spring Security filter chains are working, which are doing this authentication verifications, and which are taking the default username and password, which is only generating the form also. And have you written any code, guys? I'm entering here username and password. As a developer, have you written any code to verify that this is the user and password? Have you written any code? Are you all there in the class, guys? Please do response. If say no, if it is confusion, say that. That means behind the scenes, Spring Security has already implemented some logic. Some filters are being implemented. Spring Security filters are being implemented behind the scenes. So many filters are there, which are taking this username and password, which are going to the application.properties and taking the username and password, which is verifying whether the username and password is matching or not, and it is providing the authentication. Now, I don't want this to happen. I want to disturb the existing default security. I want to disturb this. And there is a problem with the session IDs also. What is the problem? If anyone can access the session ID, suppose some third party application, if you could able to access the session ID from your cookies, then it's gone. Using the session ID, they can access the resources, any resources on your name. So there are some problems here. How to tackle, we will see. And the next part is, here is where your support and understanding is needed. I want to disturb the existing security behavior of Spring. Right now, whatever we have seen is the default behavior, and I want to disturb this. So guys, basically what we have seen so far, to secure our REST APIs, Spring Security we have to add. One module we have to add. Okay. This module is showing some default behavior to our applications. Just to summarize what we have seen, because the way the response are coming, I have to give this summary. Please unnecessary don't buy the confusion. If it is confusion, you have a right to do that, but don't buy it. Okay. Some default behavior behind the scene to implement this default behavior, giving you the form, guys, whatever form you could able to see on your screen, that form it is giving you, right? The default form. And also if you enter some username and password, it has to collect that username and password. It has to verify behind the scene some default security filter chains. Spring security filters are on work for authentication and authorization, right? Which is doing all the authentication and authorization. And right now, how many users are there, guys? Only one single user, because one common username is there, common password is there. But in real time, will we have a single common username and password for all the users of our application? No, right? So how to perform the registration, how to securely store the data, username and password into database, and then how to provide the authentication and authorization. We have to go and disturb this predefined behavior. Behind the scenes, some predefined classes are being used to give this default behavior, which you could able to see on your screen. Now I have to disturb that behavior. While disturbing the behavior, I may have to use some of the predefined classes. I may have to use some of the predefined classes and methods, for which you might get confused because for the first time you're using the classes. And also remember, guys, writing the configuration part, security part and all is a one type setup for your application. Day in and day out, as a developer, you might create different POJOs, model classes, REST APIs, which is REST resources, and service business logic. That is the usual day in, day out life of a developer, life of a developer. However, configuration part, whether it is a batch processing, whether it is a Spring Security, Kafka configuration, these times, day in and day out developer will not do. As a developer, you may have to do it once or twice. So since you don't do this often, daily, on a regular basis, for which you might feel some of the difficulties by looking at the classes names and the methods names, but you have to come to conclusion in your mind that this is a one time setup, and this is we do very often, and I mean sorry, rarely, because of which we might feel the difficulty. That customization, I mean that mindset you should be having in order to understand this. So whatever default behavior is there, I have to disturb the default behavior. How to disturb the default behavior and how to write the code is what we may have to see here. Everyone? Yes, no, maybe? All of you present? So this session ID is there. Yes, you can set, Suresh. In the servlet application, I have also shown how to set also. In Spring also you can do that. But Suresh, there is a problem in the session ID. What is that if you ask me? Suppose you are visiting the Risco application. Okay, there is a Telesco application on our server. You are making a visit to our application. You are the client, okay, our end user. You are making a request through some security chains. I have implemented Spring Security. Behind the scene, you know very well, the moment you visit, one session ID will be generated. Correct? Yes. You are giving some response and automatically session ID will be given and storing your cookies. And again, if you're making a visit, internally the session ID is using to verify. As we have already seen, guys, for the first time, if you visit, you have to give the username and password. For the second resource, you need not to give because you could able to access the resources directly. That shows that the same session ID is getting used to provide the authentication. As a end user, you need not to give the username and password. What if there is a third party application, legend sitting, and what if they could able to access the session ID? With the help of session ID, they'll visit to the server and they will provide the session ID and they can access all other resources. As a user, the default security filter chain, it will take the session ID. It will check whatever session ID is being generated. Both of them are matching. He will come to a conclusion that you have provided, you are the right user only, and it will able to give all the resources, which is not good for the application. That's when the CSRF default tokens comes into picture and JSON web token JWT comes into picture, OAuth comes into picture. CSRF tokens, JWT, JSON web tokens, OAuth comes into picture because of the same problem. Or also you can implement the same site restriction. Same site restriction means that session ID will be valid for the user who is trying to reach out from the same browser, from the same place where he visited for the first time. By enabling the same site restriction, you can resolve this problem. But better way to secure the application is to not dependent on the session ID, to go with token based authentication and authorization. Even though if you achieve the same site restriction, that means even if someone else can access the session ID, they will not be in a position to access the resources. That's not possible. For which you just have to add one part in your application.properties. One property you have to add, which is server.servlet dot session dot cookie dot, because session ID will be stored in the cookies only. Same dot site equals to, I'll say strict. I'll say strict. That means with this, I'm achieving same site restriction. Same site restriction means if someone is able to access the session ID, with that session ID, can they visit and access any of the resources, guys, after implementing the same site restriction? Can they access the resources? The answer is no, because I have implemented same site restriction. Same site restrictions have been implemented here. Even though behind the scene one session ID is getting generated, and since it is being stored in the client and using the same session ID, the authentications are being done for the second resource, for the subsequent resources. Right now, if someone try to reach out to the application with a different site with the same session ID, your Spring Security will not allow them to access any of the resources because of the same site restriction. With the help of same site restriction, the problem which was there with the session ID is resolved. But still, it is not the way to allow my end users to access the application. We have to go with the token based authentication. The token based authentication and authorization is what I have to discuss in tomorrow's and day after tomorrow's class. So one conclusion in today's class, guys, the basic summary which I want everyone to explain, no, everyone to know, my expectation everyone to know. Have you understood the default behavior at which Spring Security is working on? Have you understood the context of Spring Security, guys? The context, the theme at which Spring Security is working? Fundamentally, you have understood, but the real game starts when I discuss CSRF token. I'll discuss about the JWT. I'll discuss how securely store the password in the database, how to enable multiple users trying to log into our application, how to write the code wherein some resources anyone and everyone can access. Some resources only few people can access. Default security, guys, is it implemented through for all the resources? We will see that, Rajat. Guys, what is the default security? Is it providing security to the specific resources or all the resources? All the resources. Now that also I have to come to a conclusion that few people can access few resources without any problem. Please provide a security only for specific resources. And how to do authentication for that? That also we may have to see in the upcoming class. Tomorrow, I'll start the journey on CSRF token, guys, and then we'll see how to enable multiple user security. And then we will see about JWT and how to store the users' details securely in the database by encrypting the password. I'll implement the bcrypt algorithm to encrypt the password. And when implementing the JWT, when you verify the encrypted password which is there in the database, but whatever end user will enter in the form, he will enter the normal password. He will not enter the encrypted password. But the password is stored in the database in encrypted format. How to take that password? How to take normal password from the end user? How to, again convert that encrypted password into normal form and do the verification, authentications? How to do that? All of that things we will discuss in tomorrow's and day after tomorrow's class. But for which today's class basic theme you should be knowing it. Only then you can understand the tomorrow's class. Okay. With the right now without we are able to use. Okay. Tomorrow we will see with bearer token only you should be able to use. In the token based authentication you have to provide the token. Bearer token you have to provide Saurabh. Without token based authentication means for the first time if you are visiting the application, one token will be generated instead of session ID. I'll not be dependent on session ID. Token will be generated. To access any of the resources, you have to provide the bearer token. Only then they can access the resources. And that is what we have to see, Saurav. That is what token based authentication, okay? Alright, guys, this is the basics of Spring Security. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow's class are very important. And your focus should not be on the predefined classes, okay? Uh, since me and Naveen sir was traveling, Kalyani, we could not able to add. Last 4 days, we both were traveling to Delhi. So today it will be added. Key points also will be added. What is that? Boardwalk. Yes, Rajat Patil. OAuth 2 was only getting asked. I'll implement maybe GitHub, Gmail, something will implement there that also, Rajat. Okay. It's very easy for Spring. Small changes are there. DevOps course will get added, guys, in today's sometime. Definitely, I'm really sorry, Kalyani, for the delay. Really, I have done some part, and remaining part is also most of that is ready. I could not able to share you guys, and I will do it at the earliest. What is that? This week we will cover Spring and next week micro. This week Spring security and other topics and microservice will start mostly this week or next week Monday. Sure, Usama. Okay, sure, Usama. Third week of December, Kalyani. Sure, sure, definitely. I'll let you know in some time, okay? Kafka server, Redis server, multiple databases configuration. So multiple databases in the sense, not multiple tables. Multiple database I'm referring to PostgreSQL also, MySQL also. Both the databases for single Spring Boot application. So that topic I have to discuss. And I have to discuss multi-DB configuration. Apart from that, batch processing is over, right? Redis server connection, Kafka server connection. After Kafka, Redis, then microservices. I have to discuss Zipkin server, admin server, Spring Cloud server, API gateway, routing, filtering, circuit breaker pattern to make application resilient, retry pattern at the same time. And yeah, done. Good work. I have not shared. So tomorrow, token-based authentication case, tomorrow, day after tomorrow. Whatever live Spring security concepts I'm doing, same content is available in the recorded format also. That also I would like to share with you. So that we'll have two things to focus on. All right, guys, thank you so much for being with me in today's class. I'll text you at Indian time 11 o'clock. New batch will be announced today, Saurabh. No issue, Rajat Patil. If you have an idea, no issues. All right, guys, let's meet tomorrow exactly at 7 a.m. and continue the discussion on the Spring security part. Thank you, everyone of you.